you don't have to spend more time fixing it after the fact.
But there are times where like
I feel like with just like doing photography stuff, I can just fit on someone's like eyeball or like a white like letter and just I don't know if it's the same for like video slash.
it'll
Okay.
For you.
Oh no, I meant going right off that. I think it's a little 85 cents.
I mean,
But not last year. Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah.
alright, guys, he's about to come out. He's about to come out if you guys want to go.
I know.
He's about to come out. Take our photos on. Where are they?
If they're coming, bring them in. They're coming to the door. They're not out there.
Hey guys. All right. So I hear y'all been bugging Manuel all day. I figured I'd give him the afternoon off and answer your questions so he didn't have to. Let me just start by making a few comments on this OMB memo that came out late last night. Obviously, that was incredibly worrisome to our team, to our secretaries, to the budget secretary. We spent a good bit and into today trying to understand exactly what the White House proposes to do here. I've spoken to my fellow governors, several Democrats, several Republicans. Spoke to the Attorney General of Pennsylvania. Our team's been talking to their team and teams all across the United States. It would seem that as a result of the White House action, there's now systems issues relating to some really, really important federal state initiatives that we work on every day, from CareerLink to Medicaid to Head Start. We literally can't access the payment systems and the computer systems that are used to run these programs every single day. That's incredibly concerning to us. I was heartened a bit by the fact that the White House said that they plan to issue some revised guidance or some clarification to their original guidance. It sounds like by about 5 p.m. tonight, when this is supposed to take effect. So we're going to wait and see what they actually are going to do at the end of the day, distinguishing between the sort of big press release they put out last night and what the actual legal guidance will be and how that will impact Pennsylvania. But regardless of what that looks like over the course of the next couple hours here, what they've done over the last day or so has been really chaotic and really reckless. I mean, you got veterans worried they're not getting their support. So you got kids to get the help and the care that they need, and you've got governments all across this country, led by Republicans and Democrats alike, who are really concerned about their ability to just run their day-to-day operations. I think everybody here is aware that if you kind of look at the overall spending of the state, roughly a third of the money we spend is state discretionary money. The kind of stuff you guys cover when we're working on our budget, in June annually. About a third discretionary money. So think like a motor license fund, right? The dollars come in and they have to go out for a particular purpose. And then a third is federal monies. And those federal monies in general can be used for, healthcare and transportation, environmental issues, public safety issues, veterans, just to name a few of the things that are funded primarily by. So if the federal government pulls back on a big chunk of the funding that they send to states, that impacts roughly a third of our overall spending. Now, I'm using those numbers just to kind of give you a broader sense. I can give you more precision with the dollars once we know what it is that they're actually affecting. But I just want you to have a sense of how this works and how when the federal government walks back a commitment it makes to states, how really detrimental that can be on the most needy in our communities. So we're going to keep looking at this. We're going to carefully monitor it. We'll have more for you. I think Manuel, Rosie, and others will have more for you later in the day once we get the full guidance from the White House back. But I just wanted to come out and let you know we're obviously on top of this and to see what I can do to answer a few of your questions.
Do you have an idea dollar-wise at this point how much money is being affected here, or like exactly what services? I know you said you're still trying to figure that out.
Well, I think I'll have a better sense of that once the White House figures it out. I mean, the memo they put out last night affected trillions of dollars, seemingly screwed up and got too far out there. And now as they issue the guidance, it's going to narrow the focus, according to the White House. Let's see, once they narrow the focus, ultimately what it impacts, and then we can walk through the price tag and the effect on the Commonwealth. I think if they go and cut trillions of dollars from the states, that's going to have a profoundly negative impact on school kids. It's going to have a profoundly negative impact on our ability to fix roads and bridges, to care for our veterans, to make sure that our farmers have the supports that they need. And that's going to impact every single state, states led by Democrats and states led by Republicans.
Governor, up in Erie, there are 2,000 nonprofits that reporters have been talking
House to offer words of comfort. I mean, the White House's memo created the kind of havoc that these NGOs, these nonprofits are now having to deal with. Remember, these are nonprofits who are going out serving our fellow Pennsylvanians. our veterans, our kids, our families, people who are in need, and they rely on this funding that was promised to them, funding that went through an appropriations process supported by members of Congress, signed by the former President of the United States. They relied on that money to provide a service to our fellow Pennsylvanians. And late last night, the White House put out a memo saying all of that is at risk. Now let's see, to your question before, let's see now as they walk this back, how much will be impacted, what will be impacted, and what kind of havoc they're going to wreak on the American people. I'm hopeful that that will be more limited.
Several states have already announced that they're going to be challenging this in court. Do you believe that Attorney General Dave Sunday should have?
I'm not going to speak for the Attorney General. I think that's a question you can direct to him.
Governor, this is supposed to be a short-term measure by the White House. That's the president's words. Do you worry, though, that this could have long-term effects?
I worry anytime the White House wants to change its commitment to the American people through the states, how that could negatively impact our Commonwealth, how that could negatively impact other states. So yes, of course I worry about that. We'll be anxious to see what the guidance, the revised guidance, looks like at 5 p.m., to see what the White House is ultimately planning. Listen, the President of the United States won the election, and he's got a Congress there to support his agenda. He certainly has the right to be able to put forth his ideas and his views. I don't deny him that. But in an appropriations process where these dollars were legally allocated to a particular purpose, pulling that back in this manner creates lots of havoc in our communities, and it also creates some legal questions. As he goes forward, if he wants to go through the appropriations process and cut this or increase that, that's certainly within his right. But the manner in which they did this last night really was reckless and creates a lot of worry in communities, not just here in Pennsylvania, but all across the country.
Can you foresee an area where maybe the state has to fill the gaps, and if they, don't get guidance on everything?
As I said before, about a third of our budget is state discretionary spending, about a third of our budget is state non-discretionary, and about a third of that budget is from federal sources. If the federal government cuts its funding, then that creates a massive pressure on the state legislature and the governor to try and fill that gap. It also creates really short-term challenges as well. Let me give you just one example. About 6 or 7 of our employees in the state who go out and serve our fellow Pennsylvanians every day, they're funded with federal dollars. They need to be furloughed right away if that particular line was cut. We've got kids in Head Start right now who rely on services that are funded on almost a daily basis. If that funding is rolled back, that immediately impacts kids in Head Start. We've got veterans who rely on these initiatives, whether for mental health care or for business services. If that gets cut off, there's an immediate need. Every state is going to have to then question whether or not they can fill that gap. These are promises that had been made by the federal government to these folks who are in need, and if they roll that back, we're all going to be faced with a very, very serious predicament. And that's one of the things that I spoke about with, again, my fellow Republican and Democratic governors today, is what exactly is the White House up to here, and what's going to be the role of the state to either fill that gap or to meet the needs of our citizens who are going to be in need as a result of these federal cuts.
Governor, we've heard United States senators from other states claim that Medicaid services, Medicaid portals are not online at the moment.
Yes, I spoke about that before. Our Medicaid portal is down, as will others. Manuel can give you a listing of all of those that we can't access right now. I can't speak to why or the motivation behind shutting them down. I can just tell you from a technical perspective, we cannot access them right now. And I can also tell you, and Manuel, make sure I'm right on this, this is not a Pennsylvania issue. This is across all the states.
Yep.
Probably can do one or two more here.
Are you worried that we're going to continue this, like just after this week, and the orders that have already come out, that this is going to become the standard operating procedure where we're going to have orders like this coming out in chaos?
Look, the president certainly has earned the right to be able to put forth his vision for the country, sign executive orders. and try and urge legislation be passed. He's earned that right. These executive orders, the manner in which they're coming, are creating some chaos and wreaking havoc on our communities. You heard before that we've got nonprofits in Erie who are wondering whether they can serve our fellow Pennsylvanians with their critical services. I think as the president goes forth and pursues his agenda, he should strive to do this in a way that doesn't harm the people of Pennsylvania, that doesn't harm the American people, but tries to lift everyone up. Okay, thanks. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you, guys.